My influences definitely comes from the new beat, Detroit techno, Chicago acid, and a lot of Belgian techno in the early 90s. In fact, in the early 90s, like industrial records or EBM records would sometimes creep up in the shop. And I would be like, wow, some of this music's amazing, but I hate the vocals. I can't stand the vocals in this stuff. Because I guess I was coming off of vocal music growing up in New York, like disco and electro and hip hop. So when I heard techno and there was no vocals, I didn't want to hear. I was so into the fact that the music just spoke itself, that I didn't need to hear someone saying something to me. That anything with vocals started to turn me off. I didn't listen to any vocal music throughout the 90s. Like, I was just like oblivious to even anything mainstream on the radio or anything like that. And with industrial and EBM, even with that music, I kind of always pigeonholed it and said, oh no, that's that. It's electronic music with guitars in it. And I didn't really know that there was a lot of stuff out there that was just straight up electronic. I was ignorant to it. I was too much of a techno purist. I couldn't really look outside the box of the techno scene. So one day I was in the shop and a friend of mine named Reed Truth, who of course Propriety now, from Craig's label, who was one of the main guys that used to work for me, a person came in with a record collection. And they're like, hey, you know, we have these records that we want to sell. It's a lot of industrial EBM stuff. And Reed's like, let me go through this stuff. And Reed goes through it and he's like picking out all the stuff. And he's like, dude, you gotta check out this Clock DBA record. He's like, I know you think that this industrial thing is this other thing. He's like, you just need to hear this record. You're gonna love it. And he puts this Clock DBA record on called The Act. And he put on the instrumental mix. And it just blew my mind. I was just like, this is totally, I could see this now at this time being reworked into something new. And then he just started turning me on to other things. And then there was a coincidence with another girl who happened to be a DJ that I had just met in that industrial scene, and she was inviting me out to these fetish industrial parties, and she was playing the style of music called rhythmic noise, which is more modern day industrial. It's more like a mixture of like IDM, sort of like Aphex Twinish, like early Aphex Twin style stuff mixed with industrial. And so now I was getting into this more industrial aspect of it, as well as the EBM, like classic stuff, and I just became obsessed with it. You know, I moved here in 2007, and you know, this person I was living at was doing industrial parties, so I was going to a lot of industrial parties here, but I was going to techno parties too, because I never totally shut out the techno scene. I'd still go out and check out what was going on. But then Berghain, you know, I wind up in Berghain, and I'm like, wow, they're actually playing real techno music in here. It's not really like the most newest stuff, but they're playing techno. And you know, I've heard the DJs are playing a lot of classic stuff, but I was like, this is cool. And then I thought the venue was so amazing, and you know, the resident DJs were great. I was like, wow, these guys I can't believe people playing this music here, you know? I mean, trust all the DJs were playing it there as well. They were always booking techno. But Berghain is just an experience. It's like, that venue is just, it's a game changer for a lot of people in the scene, you know? A lot of people don't want to give it that much credit, but I give it a lot of credit. And, you know, I think the minimal thing was kind of, you know, on the downswing, and people would go to this venue and they're hearing techno in this room, and it was sucking people in. Like, maybe the people went to go to Panorama Bar, but they wound up and they were like, whoa, what the hell, this is intense, you know? And I think that the more and more the word got out over 2007, I mean, Berghain's been around since 2004, I think, they reopened. But I think, you know, people were looking for something new, and it was pulling them in. And you know, I'm going there and I'm saying to myself, well, I can totally see playing here, and you know, my music would definitely work here. But I'm thinking, okay, I really want to make some music that would work here at 8 o'clock in the morning, because that was like my favorite time to go there. It's like 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. You're like just in this mental state of mind. Sometimes I just wake up at 5 and just go straight there. And I'm like, I gotta make some music that would work in this club at this time in the morning. And you know, I started messing about and made a couple tracks, and I played them I was playing them out of some gigs, and I was getting really good feedback on them when I was playing them in sets. And then I played them for a few people, and some other artists and labels, and then people were like, yeah, this stuff's really good. And I thought, I can't really put this stuff out as Adam X because I'm gonna get stigmatized as being too industrial EBMers, you know, because there's always a stigma attached to people in the scene if you do something. That's all you do. That's what they always think. It's like, this is it, that's all he knows how to do. They don't know that, you know, people have multi-talented skills with making different styles of music. So I decided to make an anonymous project up. And, you know, I was thinking about it for a minute because I saw a bunch of anonymous records out, some white label stuff coming out through Hard Wax, like the Wax Records and Seldom Felt out of England. And I thought, wow, maybe I should just do something anonymously and see if it works. I really believed in the music that I was working on, that I could pull it off. And I had a plan to put out a series of 3 records in a matter of a 3-month period to capture the people's attention. And you know, I read a lot on like quantum physics and stuff. I'm interested in like outer space stuff or whatever, sci-fi, whatever. And you know, sometimes when I'm reading stuff, I'm always like, if I catch names, like interesting titles, I write them down and I keep them on a sheet of paper. And so I came up with the Traversable Wormhole idea for these records because I thought, okay, this is really some sci-fi shit. And here it is. So I discussed it with a business partner of mine that does my Sonic Group label in New York, Dietrich Schoenman, who does complete distribution. And I said, hey, I want to do these series of records. You know, you gonna believe in me and want to do these, or you gonna give me shit and tell me, oh, you know, nobody's gonna buy this shit? And I said, because I'm telling you, this is gonna work. And I just knew this time that it was gonna work because I had some records on Sonic Group from other artists and stuff was just not working. You know, I was having a problem putting out techno records either for other artists on my label. And I said, this time this is gonna work. And it worked. It happened so quick. It was just, by the second record, it was like, we're repressing, you know, 200-300 more. I wasn't expecting to sell more than 200 of each in the beginning. And then, you know, by number 4, number 5, it was like, everybody's trying to figure out who it is. I'm like, this is awesome. But, you know, I wanted to let the cat out of the bag because I wanted to get my credit. I was like, you know, I was hungry to get some credit for a while because, you know, I feel like I was kicked down to the curb by the minimal scene. You know, it's, you know, so I waited and then I took the credit on number 5. Some people like to have a recording studio that they can go work to and get out of the house a bit. I can't work like that. I just like to work when I wake up, or maybe an hour before I go to bed I have an idea in my head, I need to get it out. And I work pretty minimal setup-wise. I used to have a very big studio in New York with a lot of analog gear and big, you know, 24-channel mixing desk and racks of, you know, effects, and I don't know, I scaled it all down into the laptop, you know, and to me, I did all of that stuff, and I felt, you know, I really felt back then I was limiting myself actually by working that way. Like, I feel working with the computer, there's no limitation for what I'm doing now. I don't feel held back. I don't feel that when I'm working on a track, when I used to work on hardware, that I have to leave everything up for a month to get the track done because I can't do anything else because all the keyboards and the synths are set to a certain sound, and if I change it, that's the end of the track that I'm working on. Now I feel much more liberated and a lot more free. And, you know, this has been a big change for me the last, I guess now it's 2011. I've been using Ableton for about 6 years now as my main source of sequencer, you know, program. And, you know, I'm quite content working that way. It's not the highest tech studio setup, but it works for me. In the techno scene, for the more stuff that I'm DJing now, I really love like Perk and from the UK, and I like what Luke Slater's doing again. Like Luke Slater's been making some really killer tracks again, and you know, the Sample District boys. You got in Berlin, you got Milton Bradley, who does like a lot of very cool killer stuff. Terrence Nixon is doing great stuff again. I mean, there's a lot of good people making techno right now. There's a lot of good stuff coming out. For more of the home listening to, I mean, I love listening to, still listen to some older stuff a bit. I love listening to Biosphere, ambient stuff, and Monolake. Monolake is my favorite. I'm not really saying much about Traversable Wormhole at the moment because, you know, the original concept was a bit of mystique, and, you know, I'm happy with doing what I did with the CLR thing. I'm very happy and very pleased with all the remixes. and to push it out there more so that more people will hear it. But I still want to retain a bit back the mystique that was there originally. So instead of like doing super promo and saying, yeah, I got the next one's coming out. Maybe I don't do another one, maybe I do one, maybe one comes out next week, maybe one comes out in 3 years. I'm not saying anything. But I am working on a lot of music. I'm not saying which monikers it's on.